When I first started riding bikes, it was an escape in a way. There weren't any rules like other sports. I was able to express myself and who I was on the bike. I was able to travel with my friends and build relationships along the way. The trip was 75 days. I rode from New York to San Francisco, California, roughly 3,000 miles, 4,800 kilometers. I started off the trip solo, which was challenging for me. I'd often ask myself sometimes, what the hell am I doing out here? 2.5 months on the road, it's a long time, and you never know what's going to happen. Take off, this is the maps. I got my GPS ready to go. Just checking to make sure everything's good. I had a fully loaded bicycle with my photo, video equipment, and my camping gear. I think traveling by bicycle for me was the best way to see the country. You really get a closer look and you get to experience how the terrain changes with the conditions of the climate and the wind and the rain. It's important to stay on course, trust your maps, and stick to your plan. However, I got lost pretty often out there, and just by going off course, and I think those are some of the best times because they help me to handle stressful situations in these unfamiliar locations. But also gave me the opportunity to explore and find interesting things. They became stories told to other bicycle travelers on the road. I broke down several times during the trip, the occasional flat tire, and I also suffered from a broken chain. So having the proper tools to maintain your bicycle while out there is important. You never know when those things can happen, so just being prepared is the best thing to do. Got chased by a lot of dogs, and there were some pretty close calls, getting bit by some of them. Fell down earlier on my trip, so the proper first aid is something that you want to make sure you have packed. When you think about a cross-country trip, it's exactly what you imagine it to be. I spent a lot of time taking pictures and recording video throughout this trip. Every location that I traveled through had its own unique cadence, and it was interesting to see the people adapt to the different variables that exist in it. I think after 3 weeks into my trip, the reality translated in my mind that there was no turning back. Just the thought of me bailing out or quitting no longer assembled in my thoughts. The sense of freedom and discovery out there while riding forced me to engage more with my surroundings. There was a sense of balance and a feeling that I couldn't get from anything else, and I think a lot of that was because of the different locations and the people that I've met. Every day provided a visual literacy. I met Ken in Colorado. He was traveling from Connecticut to San Francisco. His bike broke down and he was out there for a couple days. We decided to finish off the trip together, and I think that's when things started to get really interesting. We spent several days in the Rockies and a lot of time passing through Utah. They became two of our favorite locations on the trip. The camping in the Rockies with the huge descents that awaited us after every climb was just awesome. Utah transitioned from canyon mouths with huge valleys to desert and forest. Passing through Nevada was a surrealistic experience. I enjoyed the negative space and the isolation of the land. It has really long stretches for miles and abandoned houses in the middle of nowhere. When we got into California, there was an instant adrenaline rush. We hung at the border for a while and just took a break. It almost felt like we were rushing to get there, but we didn't want the trip to end. We got into Vallejo at nighttime, and it was a few days later after leaving the Sierras. I think at that point we both knew that it was just about over. Believing is everything, and during this trip it helped me to reshape my perspective on the world. I think it's easy to often place yourself in a cage, lock it, and throw away the key and cut yourself off from experiences and learning new things. Fear can be one of the things that can constitute that, and that's when you start having thoughts that prevent you from doing what you want. I think that was something that I experienced earlier on my trip. When I started this trip alone, I soon realized that no matter where I was, that I wasn't. Everything is based off of a universal relationship, and I believe that all people that I met out there are interconnected in some way or another. And I think the bicycle was the tool that provided that human experience for me to be able to share my adventure with them and understand who they are.